Perhaps the greatest tribute you can pay to the largely self-taught architect Clough Williams-Ellis is that on a sunny day you can stroll around Portmeirion and feel as if you're in some steep coastal valley village in Italy. Of course, a closer look at the eclectic mix of Jacobean and Gothic, Norwegian and Regency, restored and reconstructed buildings under their colourful coats of pink and red, green and ochre, or even just raising your sights to take in the forbidding mountainsides of Snowdonia in the distance, will eventually locate you back in beautiful North Wales. But that first feeling is a tribute to the vision and skills of one man. Clough was a Welsh middle-class eccentric, a product of a public school, but a man with a vision and understanding of many of the issues that still concern us today. He was a tireless campaigner for the environment and a founding member of both the Council for the Protection of Rural England and its Welsh equivalent. He talked a lot about beauty as something that matters profoundly to humanity, and eclectic, eccentric Portmeirion was the lifelong project of an architect with a passion for beauty. Started soon after Clough Williams-Ellis's service in the First World War, it had its first heyday in the 1930s, but Clough carried on changing it and adding to it after the Second World War, almost up to his death in the 1970s. By that time, Portmeirion had already established a reputation as a fascinating location for filmmakers, and it was featured in the bizarre British secret agent television series The Prisoner, which took the eccentricities of both the village and the estuary and turned them into something both sinister and beautiful. The landmark locations of that series are still here: the cottage of number 6, the human-sized chessboard, and of course the sandy expanse of beach where once the sinister white globes roamed. Clough found new uses for old salvaged pieces of architecture in the years after both wars, when the demands of change meant demolishing a lot of Britain's architectural heritage. Clough Williams-Ellis declared Portmeirion a home for fallen buildings. Now, the whole place is listed itself and protected, and it's run by a charitable trust that makes a nice little profit, or at least it did before Brexit, COVID and our general economic collapse. Accounts show the turnover jumped 6% from 8.1 to 8.5 million in the year to January 2018, thanks to increased hotel revenues, higher ticket prices, and profits rose slightly to 423,000. Now, Portmeirion's owned by a registered charitable foundation, and it cannot be bought or sold. Robert Llewellyn, William Ellis's grandson and now Portmeirion's managing director, has started a music, arts and literary festival in the village. And Bertram Clough Williams-Ellis, to give him his full name, wanted to demonstrate that architectural good manners were good for business, and the operation of Portmeirion as a tourist destination with quirky accommodation has vindicated that proposition entirely. All of its buildings have listed status and the grounds are a designated conservation area. Clough wanted to show how a naturally beautiful location could be developed without spoiling it, and that one could actually enhance the natural background through sympathetic development. The Aberla estate had everything he hoped for as a site for his architectural experiment: steep cliffs overlooking a wide sandy estuary, woods, and a nucleus of old buildings. But of course the history of Portmeirion, although it wasn't called that, started long before 1925, and Castell Dwydraith was mentioned in 1188 by Gerald of Wales, although it was derelict 500 years later. Portmeirion, as we know it now, was built in 2 stages, from 1925 to 1939, when the site was pegged out and the most distinctive buildings were erected. From 1954 to 76, he filled in the details. Several buildings were salvaged from demolition sites, giving rise to that Clough's description of being a place for fallen buildings. And the buildings certainly look at home on this marvellous site of this piece of coastline sitting on Cardigan Bay. And visitors feel at home too. The commercialisation isn't too intrusive. Lots of food outlets, a handful of shops, including, of course, Portmeirion Property, a business begun by Clough's wife many years earlier. And of course, the sun doesn't shine every day, and Portmeirion won't always glow in the warmth of the September sunlight, but it will remain a place of beautiful shapes and fascinating buildings, a place that captivates all your senses and is curiously satisfying to visit, leaving you replete, filled with the vision of a truly brilliant artist.